Okay, so you tell me. Hi, I'm a reader and a cameraman tonight, so we're doing a little thing here to make sure I'm in the picture. It's good? All right. I'm going to read one long poem about a walk in the park with my wife, the international sustainability superstar who is named Hope in the poem. And Margaret actually has written Sustainability Principles and Practice, which is selling around the world and is in its second edition now. She's written the Dictionary of Sustainability, which is just set to come out. They're published in Oxfordshire, and things are really going. She's an expert contributions to monographs and that sort of thing. So that's who I'm walking in the park with. Hope speaks of life on earth, to Chris as Charis. I'm lost in a gray cloud and in green leaves. It's early June now in our river valley. To west and east, the forest dream an evergreen continuation on ancient hillsides. Here below, between the ridges, deciduous rebirth is bursting forth with joyous energy while heavy clouds hang low and wet above the valley floor. We hear them cry, wife Hope and I, the crows, the pair of them arriving in our yard again as every morning, male and female, mates for life like us. Irado loves our yard, a sacred grove of ash and alder trees. I planted alders years ago, and ash trees volunteered. The muse now visits often, blithely lingering and bringing inspiration generously while she's here. The Graces visit here as well, Charites, the vegetation goddesses in lush fecundity, Aglaea's splendor, Thalia's abundance, and Euphrosyne's good mood. Truth, beauty, goodness, the sweet Graces show us these to guide our life and death, our science and our art. We're going out to walk the meadow trail now, Hope and I. We'll only stop 100 times to watch what's there, and listen where the creek is singing over shallow falls. Hope notes that our mobility descends from the antique motility of Protus, undulapods wriggling in the ancient seas, and off we go, two animals to saunter on dry land. Find one point. Relax completely. Wait underside. Extend key. I feel the kami here, a finite concentration of the infinite divinity that flows throughout the universe. In both plurality and singularity, divinity pervades our everywhere, our always. I feel the puzzling presence that's an absence, everywhere and nowhere. Subtle quantum nothingness that Plato wisely called the chora, wherein on and genesis respectively exist and happen. Nature is alive with genius, full of the original divinity. We walk with death through nature's living moment. Our benign alignment with the flow of ki through cosmos is the natural. Involvement by us humans doesn't make a happening unnatural, and non-involvement by us humans doesn't make it natural. Our breath collects, projects, directs the ki the cosmos makes available. We flow conjoined to canny cosmic life force, finely unified with universal energy, divinely merged with ever-present spirit. If one plants oneself indomitably on the hara, all the world will bend around and blend with one. We unperturbed, confronting the contingencies as other animals, and celebrating sacredness in every moment, loafing and inviting kami to our side, we now set off to stroll the trail, at ease in nature. Do you ever get the feeling our eternal home is all around us, all the time? Find one point. Relax completely. Wait underside. Extend key. The city park is just across the street from us, and we descend the lengthy driveway, past the white oak tree, and cross to where the meadow trail begins. As said before, we're here in June, the happy month of camas harvesting in Kalapuyan times. The flowers blossom blue around us in the thigh-high grass. They're sprinkled like wild love across the meadow. 15,000 Calapooians lived here in the 18th century. 130 Calapooians were alive in 1910. It's hard to see the blossoms and not think of them, the vanished ones. The shamans gathered camas first each year, enough so every villager could have a bite. They offered reverence to the cosmic spirit that allowed the camas to grow back each spring. The bulbs were food. You took your digging stick with antler handle and you dug a pile of luscious camas bulbs to bake. For 7,000 years and more, they did this. Now the camas blooms seem dreams of ancient times. I feel the gladness of the ghosts that glide among the wild blue flowers now. The boldness of the bloom unfolding here reminds us that the spirit of the valley never dies. Elusive, ever vague, it now returns, surrounds us with its lavish beauty. Hope lifts up a rock and finds a salamander. Here's an apex predator, she comments. Tiny, lungless, it consumes a pile of fly and beetle larvae, ants, small snails, mites, spiders, earthworms, centipedes, and springtails every day. It hunts invertebrate leaf shredders, thus reduces the release of carbon to the atmosphere. The salamanders thrive here. Garter snakes here slither through the tall wild grass. Gophers, moles, and voles dig tunnels here. The epiphytes are thriving here. The saprophytes are everywhere in this diverse environment. The symbionts and decomposers, fungi, lichens, moss, and liverwort establish residence on fallen trees, on branches overhead. The hyalophagic ants inhabit and consume the fallen limbs and branches. Huckleberry and salal abound. The turkey vultures circle high above, the patient dinosaurs endowing empty air with ancient grace. The dragonflies and hummingbirds around us flit and hover. Iridescent beetles take flight quickly. Pileated woodpeckers adorn the tree trunks, seeking juicy insects in the bark. The black-tailed deer survive here in the sample parkland of our sprawling suburb. The wild turkeys wander freely here. The raucous crows and blue jays flourish. Find one point, relax completely. Wait underside, extend key. Inebriates of summer air are we simplify, recover innocence, and share the demi-wildness of this semi-solitude. We hear the creek still flowing through the shadows, singing in the cottonwoods with silver song. The spirit of the place becomes our mind, our heart, our hara, and unconsciousness informs our intuition. I exclaim, O biosphere, make me thy lyre, just as the forest is. O savage spirit, be thou me. Hope smiles and says, we lead our lives of quiet inspiration. Then we meet the Lorax strolling past, who says, I speak for trees, and waves and grins. Hope notes, beside the woods we met a holy fool, a motley gent, a fellow very wise. We reach the creek and find a boulder by a little bridge. The creek stands still, the bridge streams over. In the shade we make the coolness our abode. We sit on stone, completely calm. The chaos in the brain produces novelty and flexibility, which paradoxically let neural networks make more sense of self and cosmos. Our peripatetic dialogue begins, meanders like the trail in Zoic Creek. Our stationary discourse winds. Some things we needn't say, have talked about before. Nonlinearity and chaos, sensitivity to first conditions, unpredictability by any real observer, the logistic bifurcations in discrete equations, strange attractors governing the daily weather, irreducibly entangled quantum states, superfluidity and superconductivity, the radically holistic macrostates, the marvelous life cycle of the slime mold, the complexity of order and disorder, breaking symmetry, self-similarity. These thoughts we share, dear Hope and I. In 50 million years, what trace of us, our sitting here, our talking of it all, will still remain? Find one point, relax completely. Wait underside, extend key. Hope says, as chlorophyll absorbs a photon during photosynthesis, it keeps coherence of the quantum state a relatively long time, so light is turned to chemicals and food is made by quantum energy. I say, the plants evolved from plastids that have turned the sunlight into food for all the animals on Earth. She offers, if this little snake-like forest here at Creekside were a building, it would get the highest LEED certification for the cool evapotranspiration of these countless moist green leaves. I mention, plants are friends and strangers to us. They can breathe but have no lungs, have circulation but no heart, can eat but have no mouth, digest but have no stomach, show intelligence but have no brain. She adds, plants' roots and shoots detect the details of their situation and concoct and implement solutions for survival. Plants have consciousness but think in ways unlike our own and alien to us. I say, yes, plants coordinate themselves internally without a brain or even nerves at all. Plasmodesmata, xylem, phloem, and stomata let electrical and chemical communications circulate inside a plant to flow through groups of plants and tell of danger, sex, and nourishment. Plants even send enticing messages to animals to manage and manipulate behavior favorable for plant survival. She relates, each tree is both an individual and a community of residents inhabiting the tree and interacting networks linking all to it and to each other. Tree and forest, both are systems. Everywhere we look are nested Russian dolls of zoic systems. I develop, as we tread the forest floor, each footstep lands above a billion tiny creatures linked to roots and soil and networks of each other. Lichens growing in the forest canopy have captured crucial nitrogen for genes and proteins and release it when they fall and join the soil. Both DNA and RNA use proteins to remember the biotic, autopoic plan and send into the waiting future what we've learned about surviving, whether by competing or cooperating, all of us, bacteria, protoxis, fungi, animals, and plants. Hope says, each forest is a whole that's greater than its many parts. A forest is a carbon sink, accumulating carbon in the bodies of its living beings and releasing carbon when they die. The forest is a microcosm, is an immense interconnected web of flows and forms of energy and life, a vital web that builds in the adjacent possible because of solar-powered food producers, turning daylight into food. Then I digress. Old Darwin loved his worms and learned to recognize their personalities, aesthetic sense, morality, and undeniable intelligence. Find one point, relax completely, wait underside, extend key. Hope knows sustainability completely inside out and says a range of things well worth remembering for good. Quote, at least 4 billion years ago in the dim backward and abysm of time, 11 billion years or so beyond the start of temporality itself, debris from the explosion of a supernova gathered into this our Earth, an elemental sphere of stardust orbiting our local sun, itself still young then. Energies exchange and matters and movement cycle over scales from subatomic to gigantic. Changes happen via flows of energy and flows of matter. And these varied changes often form regenerative patterns that are cyclical. This non-ergodic universe, this vastly non-repeating cosmos, this stochastic forward flow of all, includes our earthly ecosphere and us. We can't prognosticate the future of the biosphere. This co-constructing and emergent whole persistently evolves. We can't foretell our planetary world, much less the universe, because emergence is creative radically. The laws of nature can't predict emergence. Broken symmetries, molecular chirality, and quantum tunneling refute reductionism and affirm emergence of complexity and scale that fundamental physics can't foresee. Therefore, constructivist hypotheses break down. New properties appear in complex and abundant aggregates of elementary particles and can't be understood as just extrapolations from characteristics of component parts. At every stage, new generalizations, concepts, laws are needed. Thus, the evolution of the biosphere is lawless partially. We can't really foreknow all adaptations life will make. The laws of physics won't be broken. Causally anomalous phenomena are not reductionist at all. Not universe, not biosphere, not history can fully be described by static laws." End quote. Next quote. "The Holocene extinction happens all around us all the time. We'll lose a half of all Earth species by this century's end. We seldom even notice that it's happening. We're blind to it. It seems invisible to us. Our fellow animals decline. We shoot them, trap them, hook them, poison them, and take away their habitat. Yet nature isn't other. We are nature too. Our mastery is just a trait. It's also an illusion, self-delusion, hubris, tragic flaw, our Ozymandian ironic boast. Look on our works, ye mighty, and despair. While in a geologic blink, our work collapses into utter ruins as the flowing sands stretch far away. We're mad as hatters. For example, methyl mercury accumulates in fish and shrimp, and then in us who eat the fish and shrimp, who eat what ate the krill and plankton, who consume bacteria whose bodies stored the mercury that reached the ocean floor after humans mined it from the ground and loosed it in the atmosphere that took it to the sea. For everything connects on planet Earth. The Gaia killers we employ, organochlorines and organophosphates, plus the PCBs, PFSs, CFCs, and such, we spread them all around, up and down the food chain, poisoning our Mother Earth, our fellow creatures, and ourselves." End quote. Next quote. "The whole wide world is being urbanized as human populations spread across dry land. But here the ancient solitude remains, this sanctuary where the biosphere is obvious. Here governance, scenarios, goals, strategies, implementation, frameworks, tactics, policies dissolve into the lovely shadows, part of the incorporated being of this legislated refuge. Humans, termites, ants, wasps, bees, such creatures all develop superorganisms, greater social entities composed of many individuals who specialize, cooperate, extend collective power, and prevail on planet Earth. The exponential growth of human population from 1.5 billion in 1900 to 6 billion in 2000 modifies the orb we dominate. Our industry and agriculture fuel the global human superorganism, empowering us to change the carbon content of the atmosphere, requiring that we show more wisdom than we ever have, lest we should perish from the earth forever. Human beings have a taxon. Animalia developed from a blastula, chordata, nervous system in a hollow spine. Mammalia with hair and mammaries from sweat glands. Primates, relatives of chimps. Hominidae, ape people. Homo, others all extinct now. Sapiens, the knowing, thinking, us. We superorganismic human beings have devoted precious time and money to remaking this suburban spot, this precious park, into our image of the natural. Anthropogenic global warming will soon change it greatly, making it like Costa Rica or else Baja, tropical or desert habitat. The changes will be huge in either instance." End quote. Next quote. "Most of life on Earth is microbes. Some 10,000 fully grown bacteria can fit inside a single period on a printed page. Archaea and bacteria, the viruses and protists, they're everywhere around us and inside us. They create the biosphere, maintain it, and enable us to live. We're mobile ecosystems carrying this galaxy of microbes in digestive tract from mouth to anus. We're like lichens in a vital partnership with microbes. We're dependent on the symbiosis with bacteria, archaea, protists in our gut, our lungs, our mouth. We're mammal microbe symbioses harboring 100 trillion microbes. When we die, our breathing stops, and oxygen no longer circulates throughout the body. So the anaerobes inside our gut aren't held in check, are free to eat the walls of the intestine that contain them, then devour the rest of us from inside out, a process called decomposition." End quote. Find one point, relax completely, wait underside, extend key. "I feel the holy breath in all this lovely science, pneuma, hagion, the sacred spirit, kiful kokyu. The spirit of the cosmos hallows us, and we become the empathetic agents of its power, love, and creativity. Emergent systems channel through the horror from profoundest fusus. If we strive to love the planet as we love ourselves, our species may survive the coming century. So many cradles here are endlessly rocking. Survival of the fittest isn't as important as cooperation and co-opting in the total history of life on Earth. As quantum systems interact with quantum oscillators, quantum information is entangled, phase is scrambled, decoherence happens. Quantum mind has consequences, but without a crudely classical causality. Consciousness might be persistently coherent, decoherent systems that forever propagate coherence on a quantum scale, yet which forever decohere to classical behavior in our everyday experience. The granularity of time and space, the loopiness of quantum gravity, the hidden unity of tiny and immense, the mysteries continue. Wilderness is where we come from. Wildness makes us fully human animals. An autopoic being is a healthy, living entity. I love to hear my dear Hope speak of ecoregion, climate science, biophilia, and park design. I love her so.